Hey, y'all. Everybody's favorite bumpkin here. I kind of owe you guys a little bit of an apology for not having a video last Thursday like I told you I would. Sorry, guys. Life, adulting, responsibilities, that all kind of conspired against me to where, unfortunately, I wasn't able to put anything together for you guys, at least nothing that was worth watching. Here we are. Hey, just a heads up, y'all. If you haven't noticed or you haven't seen it on the news, unfortunately, Florida's fixing to get hit with the old 1-2 gut punch, and it's going to land pretty much right smack dab in the middle of where we are located at here in St. Petersburg. Now, I know we're still a couple of days out from this thing showing up, but models ain't looking good, y'all. I'm going to be honest with you. We've been taking steps to get stuff nailed down here at the house, put things in place, put plans in motion to where we can bug out. Honestly, this is the first time in my 8 years of living in Florida that I've ever bailed out for a storm. And honestly, if it weren't for my mom and some of the medical issues that she's got going on right now, I'd ride it out here. Last week, my mom had kind of a scare. My mom's got heart issues. My mom has respiratory issues. Her oxygen dropped out pretty damn hard, and it scared the shit out of us. Just kind of a fluke thing, it just bottomed out and then it came back up. We've been talking to her doctor right now with the exceptionally bad timing of how all this is coming together. Right now, I think this is the safe way to play it, to take care of me, the wife unit, petty officer SquidBoi, and also my mom. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm got to be protected at all times. That's just the way that it is. This video is actually the video that I was going to show y'all Thursday night, along, for our tool talk, kind of a tie-in with Ramlin Park on Petty Officer SquidBoi's Honda here. Just, it's a little weird, it's a little jumbled up, and for that I apologize. Okay, but hang in, hang out, and we will see where all this leads, and then here in a couple days, whenever the dust settles, so to speak, and I see where we are with things here at the temple, here at our house, here in St. Pete. I'll check in with you guys, give you all a heads up, let you know where things are, and see where we go from there. Okay. All right. Here we go. Let's roll the calendar back a few days and do some weird, goofy, video effects and. Yeah. Okay. Time machine ride over. Here we go. Check it out. Hey, y'all. Everybody's favorite bumpkin here. Man, it's been a week, ain't it? Bad deal. Bad deal. The damage that was done, on the coastal areas, here in our area, our neck of the woods, and also, a little further up north, Clearwater, going all the way up the coast, especially once you get up into the Big Bend part of Florida. That's bad, y'all. Take a minute. Keep them folks in your thoughts and in your prayers, okay? Because they're having to deal with a erasure level event. Because then the reason I say it that way is because pretty much everything they knew about normal life is gone. They got rough. Also, a couple of members here, a couple of members on the Patreon, a couple of members over on Shade Tree Discord. You guys know who you are. I ain't going to call you out here, but y'all know my phone number. Y'all know that whatever y'all need, if there's anything I can help you with, all you got to do is get a hold of me, okay? All right. So, that being said, it's kind of like tool talk at the temple with a little bit of Ramlin Park mixed in. One's kind of supporting the other here. What have I been doing here the past couple of days outside of fixing my fence and picking up trash out of the yard and all that? Well, in an earlier video, you guys saw my mini lathe that I had. I still have that, although I'm in the process of getting it cleaned up and looking at rehoming it because I finally got off my butt and I broke out the big guy. What this is a well-used and moderately abused and neglected 9x20 central machinery bench lathe. Way back when it was sold through Harbor Freight. It's been sold under several different brands. Inco, Grizzly still currently has it in their lineup as the G4000 lathe. Honestly, you know, it's got a pretty decent amount of flexibility to it, but it's got a couple of drawbacks to it too. Now, as I make updates on this thing and as I make improvements on it, I'll be sure to fill you guys in. The first thing that I'm going to do here very soon is where this compound slide mounts on top of the cross slide. Man, I got to remake that mount because it's weedy, it's weebly, it's about like a half dried out spaghetti noodle. Name of the game whenever it comes down to stuff like this is rigidity. So as I make improvements on this thing and as I make upgrades to this thing, I'll be sure that I give you guys a heads up and kind of bring you up to speed with what I did and why I did it. The reason I'm pointing this out right now is because I had to knock the dust and the crust off of this thing. That way I can spin up some parts. That way we can use them on Petty Officer SquidBoi's Honda here for the Ramwin Park bike. Give me just a little bit. I got to throw some stock in the bandsaw and whittle it down to manageable length. Then we'll chunk it in here and we'll do what we're going to do with it. So while the bandsaw is over there chewing its way through a piece of aluminum stock, let me explain what we're doing here. We found some handlebars for this thing that my son liked, and he liked the bend and he liked the feel of them and everything. But they were a little on the skinny side once, you know, we started mocking everything up and, you know, kind of started getting the feel of things. Things were getting kind of crowded up there when you put the hand controls and the brake master cylinder and the throttle housing and all that stuff up on there. So what we're going to do is we're going to widen them by 2 inches on each side. We're going to take some aluminum round stock, we're going to chunk it in the lathe, and these are simple. These are 1-inch bars on the OD. All we got to do, we're going to take our aluminum, and we bought this stuff oversized because I've got some other things that I'm going to be making with it. Normally, I wouldn't chop that much off of a piece of stock because a lot of it's just going to end up as chips in the chip tray on the lathe. The size that I really wanted for doing this, it would have taken it longer to get here, and plus it would have ended up costing more money in the long run. As it is, hey, guess what? We're getting a head start on making tinsel for the Christmas tree. We're going to take our aluminum, and we're going to skim it down to exactly 1 inch on the outside diameter of it. That way it matches up with the outside diameter of the bars. Then, since that's a 4-inch long piece, we're going to measure off 2 inches from there, and then we're going to step that down with a square shoulder cut to what the inside diameter of the handlebar tube itself measures, plus, we'll call it 2/1000 of an inch for interference fit. What we're going to do to get them in there and to lock them in place, we're going to put a real slight knurl on there. That way it kind of roughens it up a little bit and gives it something to grab a hold of. And just for good measure, we're going to slather a little bit of Loctite 680 on there because it's an awesome stud locker. Once it's there, it's there. It ain't going anywhere. But with having a 2/1000 of an inch interference fit, we'll take the extension, stick it in the freezer, and let it chill down for a couple of hours. We'll take a heat gun, heat the handlebar up, and then we'll take a dead blow hammer, and that'll take care of the rest of it, and basically just whoop the crap out of it until it goes in there and it bottoms up on the shoulder. That way it's in there, it's locked in secure, nice, straight, and square. We got our extra width that we need, and plus, once the Loctite cures and the temperature equalizes, they ain't going anywhere. I've seen guys do this in the past where they'll use like a couple of grub screws or something to lock them in place. Honestly, I did my handlebars on the Bastard Glide like this when I put them on there, about 2.5 years ago. They ain't even attempted to move. So interference fit and Loctite green, good to go. Yeah, no, that ain't gonna fly. If you guys watch, you can see how that's turning around and around off center like that. The problem is, these lathes came with a 4-inch chuck, which normally wouldn't be a big deal. You just pull the jaws out, swap in the outside jaws, go on with life. Only problem is I didn't get the outside jaws for this chuck. All I've got's the interior ones. So you can kind of see my problem. It's too big. Okay, slight side project. I got a couple of bigger 4-jaw chucks for this thing along with the lathe, but I haven't cleaned those up yet. So I guess that's what we're doing before we move forward. Now don't worry, I'm not going to bore the crap out of you and keep you waiting here for however long it takes me to clean all this stuff up. I'm going to go ahead and shoot the video just to kind of let you guys see what's going on and everything, but I'm going to shoot it in a time lapse. Trust me, y'all will thank me for that. Just to kind of explain what I'm doing here. The chucks for these lathes in particular, the spindle is threaded on these things. So the chuck literally screws onto that spindle and it just anchors down with a set screw. It's totally fine for turning stuff one direction. You can't turn in reverse because even with the set screw there, you got no guarantees that that thing's not going to unscrew and spin off and come off there at a high rate of speed. But this is how you get them loose, or at least how I get it loose. I'm sure there's probably some purists out there that will cry foul and scream bloody murder when they see what I'm about to do here, but it's my lathe and not theirs. There we go. That's something that's on the short list of what I'm going to do for this thing here in the very near future is make me a Tommy bar where I can put it in that index hole in the spindle nose itself, and that way I can hold it and just pull on it, pop that chuck loose whenever I got to change chucks out. Because I'm really not a fan of bonking on it with a hammer like that, even if it is a dead blow. And we got to loosen up our set screw a little more. That way we can get the chuck off the threads. Because it didn't quite make it. Sorry. Saw some sheet metal that was bent. Y'all know me. Easily distracted. Now, normally I tell people if you're doing this, lay a piece of wood on top of the ways on the lathe, because these ways, this is where the precision lies in any lathe. If you dink them up, dick them up, damage them, dent them, disfigure them, whatever, it's going to affect how your pieces come out. Since I don't have a piece of wood handy right now, I'm going to use this plastic lid from a little Rubbermaid shoebox, but it'll get the job done. Okay, slight sidebar here while I delve into my gearhead nerd mode just a slight bit. This is the chuck that I just pulled off of the lathe. Now, if you notice, it's got big old chunkster coarse threads back in here where it screws on the spindle nose, but there's a seam right here. That's because it uses a standard 3-bolt mount, and it's got a register lip that matches up on this back plate here on the inside. Now, here in the near future, I'm going to be replacing this 4-jaw chuck with a 5-jaw. Wow, I'm dumb. I'm going to be replacing this 4-inch chuck with a 5-inch chuck. That way I've got a little bit more flexibility as far as what I can grab and how I go about grabbing it. But also, since I'm missing the outside jaws for this chuck, we're not going to throw it out because this chuck's actually in pretty good shape. It cleaned up real nice because it was real scabby and nasty, and it had wood shavings and packed up all in it. Unless you can get the jaws specifically for this thing, you're kind of lost on it a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build an adapter plate off of this original back plate. Basically, we're just going to copy this thread pitch, and we're going to make an adapter plate to where it'll allow our adapter that we're going to make to bolt onto the back of a 5-inch chuck. That way it gives us a little bit more flexibility with it. Now this 4-jaw that I'm going to put on here, this is obviously something shop made, and I'm not sure what this chuck started out being in the first place, but you can definitely tell that the outside of it has been turned down a little bit because you can see the tooling marks on it, but you can also see that lip right there where they tried to cut it back. This mount that they're using, this is actually the face plate that came with this lathe when it was new for turning in between centers and things like that. But they centered it up and they've got it indexed and they've got it marked here as far as positioning goes. I don't know if you can see that or not, but they've got, yeah, right here. They've got reference marks stamped in both the back plate and also the chuck. That way, if you ever take the chuck off the back plate, you can recenter it whenever you put it back on there. Smart thinking. And just as a thought, before I screw this chuck on here, this register lip on the back of the snout where it threads on, That's our alignment surface. So I'm going to hit it with a whetstone real quick just to brighten it up and knock some of the funk off of it, just to make sure everything's buttoned up square and it takes the weeble and the wobble out of it. And you don't have to worry about trying to polish it up or taking a ton off of it. Basically, you just want to take enough off where you brighten it up and knock off any obvious rust. And there went my whetstone. Shit. So now with my abbreviated whetstone, it's going to be one of them nights, y'all. There we go. You ain't got to take it all the way down to smooth bare metal. It ain't got to look like it's chrome. I know this looks like a dink right here. It's not. That's actually a stain. But now we know we're flat, and that way it's not going to, look like a warped frisbee whenever we spin it up. Now, the number one thing you guys will always hear me harp and preach about, because I do this regularly at work, and I know you guys have seen me without safety glasses, you guys have seen me engaging the safety squints, and also you guys have seen me doing stuff that I tell you straight up, hey, this is a bad idea, don't do it at home, okay? Now, rule number one, never touch the on switch unless you got your safety specs on. Number two, whenever this chuck key isn't in your hand and turning on the chuck itself, take it out, lay it somewhere. I can't count the number of times I've gone by the lathe at work and freaked out and lost my damn mind because somebody left the damn chuck key in the lathe. Now here's the thing, electric motors make a lot of torque and they make a lot of RPM. Now I've got this lathe belted up where it turns about 600 RPM right now. That is, 8 ounces or so. You wouldn't think it'd be all that heavy. Well, the thing is, if somebody turns this on and this gets catapulted out of here at a high rate of speed and it beams you in the noggin, trust me, you're going to think 8 ounces is pretty damn heavy. Take it out. Okay, I decided to speed this part of the video up in a time lapse. That way it'd save you guys the pain and suffering of seeing me wander around the shop, scratching my head and bashing it against the wall for about the next hour while I was cleaning this chuck up. This thing had wood shavings and brass swarf and all kinds of gack that basically turned into wood and concrete packed up in it, and I had to dig all that junk out. And then I had to sacrifice a couple of green scratch bright scrubbies to the machine shop guys to where I could get all the rust scrubbed off the outside to where I could see my layout lines on the front of the thing, and also to get it slicked up to where it was actually going to be usable to work with. Um, what can I say? It's exercise in futility at times, but it's one of those things that you got to do to move forward with things, and it's something you got to do to get the job done. Anyway, if you guys notice, WD-40 is your best friend whenever it comes to getting the funk and the junk scrubbed off of this stuff, especially when it's been sitting in somebody's garage for God knows how long, and that was even before I got a hold of it. So, anyway, a little bit of WD-40 and a couple of green Scotch Brite scrubbies later, all in all, is it a showpiece? No. Does it work? Oh, yeah. Gets the job done just fine. A little bit of lube, a little bit of love, a little bit of elbow grease, a couple of cups of coffee. Hey, we're in like Flynn, and we can start getting all the little nitpick details done to where we can actually put this thing to work. So 2 hours later, here we are, and we can actually start making some parts with this thing. I'm the only one that finds it ironic that I got to launch off into a couple of side projects before I can get back to the project I was working on. In case you guys are wondering, WD-40, buy it in a gallon can at Lowe's or someplace. Makes for a hell of a good cleaning solvent. Ew, gross. As you can see all the crap that just floats off of it. Well, you could if I was, closer to the camera, but yeah, anyway. Okay, there's that. Now let's get back to whittling down some aluminum. That's crooked as hell. But that's where a 4-jaw chuck comes in handy, because you can move each one of these independently and we can straighten that out real quick. Now on a 3-jaw or on a self-centering 4-jaw, you tighten it up, they all come in together. The only problem is you're going to have certain amounts of run out whenever they're in certain positions. So not quite the most accurate thing. With the 4-jaw, we can get it dead nuts even if we want to. This doesn't require anything to that level, but hey, I'm going to show you how it's done. This little dinky baby hand wheel is going to be one of the first things that goes. All right, guys, watch this. Watch the needle on the dial indicator there. You don't even need the needle at this point. You can see it instead of waggling all around. That's our high spot right there. And it's not quite in line with that job, but it's close enough where we can get it in roughly right now. Just keep her honest here. Give it a little thump thump just to make sure that we're still squared up against the face of the chuck, though. Yep, she moved just a skosh. Back in with a little baby hand wheel. Circus music. Hey, looky there. We're down to more or less 5 thou, which is more than adequate for what we're doing here because we're taking a hell of a lot more material than that off of it. Now, full disclosure, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to cut these to length because I got to face off here because my cuts are slightly out of square because my bandsaw is, well, let's put it this way. My bandsaw was built about the time JFK was thinking about running for office. What we're going to do, we're going to square this up, get this cut to length here, be exactly 4 inches long, and then we're going to do our 2-inch cut down to 1 inch in diameter on this. That way we can just barely scooch 2 of these guys loose, pop our other piece in there, do the same thing with it, and then we got a nice, long, smooth, continuous 1-inch run on each one of them. We'll put the 3 job back on there, and then we'll work our way down as far as that step cut goes for the part that's going to press into the bars. I think I can. Now let's give her one more thump and bump. Didn't feel nothing move, but you never know. Let's go around and snug them up just to make sure we're tied all the way around. And in all honesty, I should probably do this before I pull the dial indicator off here, just in the name of precision. But hey, guess what, y'all? I have no formal training as a machinist whatsoever. Everything I know is self-taught for the most part, and I watch a lot of YouTube and I read a lot of books. Yeah, take it for what it's worth. Even though it may be a little bit out of round, by the time we're done, it's going to be really, really round. And that's all that matters. Change our attack angle just a little bit on our bit. That way I don't have to change up my tool here. That's another thing. This is a standard 4-way tool post holder. I'm not a fan of these things. You guys may have seen on my mini lathe, I've got a quick change tool post on that uses a little dovetail wedge with the holder that drops down. It's got a cam lever that pulls it in and tightens it up. I've got one of those things on order for this lathe. It's going on here in the next couple of days because it is so much quicker and they are so repeatable whenever you got to change tools or something like that. Plus, it makes it handy as hell because you just take, you buy a couple of extra tool holders, go ahead and have your common use stuff all mounted up, boom, swap it out, you're up and running. Plus, also, it lets you make sure that you've got your tool bits set on your center height here for what you're working with. Here in a minute, I'll point that out to you because this one is a little bit low, but I'm not going to fret over it right here, right now. Project list continues to grow. That carriage lock. We got to do something about that because it's a bummer having to break out an Allen wrench or a screwdriver every time you want to lock the carriage down and make a cut. And I got to make slide locks for the compound and the cross slide. Wait a minute. Shiny object, one thing at a time, dummy. Let's get this done. Contact. Look right there, right in the middle. You'll see a little bitty pip right there. And what that's from my tool being just slightly low on center. It's not quite cutting on center. Now, if I was doing something really, really important where I needed, 1 thou accuracy, you better believe I'd shim that thing up and get that height up because you can just stack feeler gauges up and basically use them like spacers to set your tool height on a 4-way post like this. For what we're doing here, this is totally fine, okay? That little pip, he ain't gonna bother nobody. So we're just gonna ignore him and proceed. Before we get too deep into this thing, and see how much we got to take off. Because I knew that my bandsaw didn't cut quite straight, so I left myself a little bit of wiggle room for shortening these things up. Right now, I'm measuring out at 4.206, basically. 4.206. We're going to round that down because we want 2 inches of extension on each side. Okay, now, the good old-fashioned digital guesstimators. You guys have probably heard me preach about these before. If you haven't, brace yourself because it's coming in right now. Harbor Freight, yep, that's it right there. They offer this same caliper, but they're made in 2 different factories, and they have a very slight difference, but it's a very important difference. The ones with the gray body, like this one, the repeatability on them is awful. I regularly see this thing float 10, 12 thousandths of an inch. I don't know why, but I've gone through a couple of different pairs of these and returned them. They're absolute crap. Now, on the flip side of that, they make this same caliper, and it's actually the same part number. It's actually the same stock number. If you look it up on Harbor Freight's website, it'll have number blah, 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 / number blah, 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 blah. They use them interchangeably. I know this doesn't show up that great on the video, but trust me, the body on that is gray. You can probably see it a little bit better there because my overhead light's kind of washing it out a little bit. The ones with the black body, those are awesome. I use those things on the regular at work every day. I've got another pair that I keep in my RC toolkit for measuring stuff on my RC cars. I don't like dragging them out into, a rough and tumble environment like what I'm doing with these. These, if I break them, big deal. They're Pittsburgh. They got a lifetime warranty on them. If they die, I'll take them back. They'll give me a new one. But you can bet your ass what I'll do is when and if I do kill these, when I take them back, I'm going to open up the box and see what color the body is on the ones that I get to replace them with, because if it's a gray one, I'm going to set it aside and I'm going to go digging until I find a black one. Those are the ones that actually work and are consistent. Okay, so we need 2 inches at 1 inch in diameter. And there, close enough. Okay, bumpkin tip. If you don't have any layout fluid, because it's expensive and mine always dries out, Sharpie, that's the order of the day. Just take you an educated guess of where your line's going to fall at. You guys are fixing to cringe. There's some of you guys out there that are going to see what I'm fixing to do here, and you're going to start getting the whole eye twitchy thing, okay? It's cool. I understand. I feel your pain. I don't care about this set of calipers, okay? These are a convenient tool, nothing more. I don't care if I beat the tips up or where they're ground or anything like that, because honestly, the grind on these is terrible. Like I was saying earlier, the black body calipers, they're awesome. They are outstanding. They've got to be made in a different factory. But these gray body ones like this, guess what? They pull double duty as a scribe. I would absolutely not do that with my good calipers. I'll make me a little witness mark that basically says, hey, dummy, stop here. And then we're going to let her eat. Oh, yeah. Might help if I put the lead screw in gear, dummy. Ew, yeah. This is going to take a while. Some kind of chatter, huh? Surface finish ain't worth the crap neither. But that's okay, because we're just roughing her down right now. If we take some big cuts on it, yeah, it may get a little noisy, but I ain't going to stress over it too awful bad. That's what I was talking about the flex on this compound and about the way it mounts to the cross slide. It's because of that flex where this mounts down, it's allowing this to bow and deflect and to vibrate, and that's what's causing that tool chatter that you're hearing. So now that we got our initial pass down, every now and then just give it a little mist of WD-40 to kind of help it cut. Let her eat. Yeah, it sounds like crap, I know, and honestly, I don't care if it's chattering right now because I still got a lot I got to chew off of that thing. I'll worry about making a clean cut of a good surface whenever we're getting down to the nut cutting on our target dimension. I'm going to change up the angle on my tool just a bit here to see if I can knock out some of that chatter. I don't have it quite square, but Let's see what it does. Well, that didn't help squat for our chatter problem. See? But it does seem like it's cutting a little bit better chip. Man, that was awful. Blah. Ugh. Gross. Ugh. I just found out the hard way I had a bug floating in my coffee cup. Now the reason I'm doing just this little stub right here, oh, sorry, my bad, how rude. I was in the way. The reason I just made that little stub cut right there, I'm 30 thou off my target dimension right there. So I just wanted to kind of give it a quick run and see where I was at. I'm going to go ahead and let it finish out this pass. That's when we got to worry about making it pretty and getting it on target. That should have us really close. What do the guesstimators say? And I know you're supposed to measure out here on the bevel grinds, on the jaws on these. We're doing this quick and dirty rough, y'all. So actually, if you go by that, I am about 6 thousandths of an inch under 1 inch right there. If this was something where I was really worried about it, yeah, I'd be mad and I'd be cussing and I'd be reaching for another piece of stock. But this is not something where I'm terribly worried about high levels of precision here. I'm just wanting to get it down relatively close. Now, 6 thousandths of an inch in the grand scheme of things, that ain't going to make squat worth a difference because, keep in mind, this is our 1 inch side. So this is where the grip is going to be on here. I want to show you guys something real quick here to make sure that your grip never comes loose. So what you're seeing there is a cut knurl pattern. You know, and you guys probably seen it a million times on stuff. Not only does this give us more surface for our grip to glue to and adhere to, but also whenever you knurl something like that, it'll actually fatten it up. So that 6 thousandths of an inch I accidentally undercut, that's not a problem anymore. That off of there because we're not going to be using him anymore. We're only doing this on the clutch side. We're not doing it on the throttle side because we need the throttle side nice and smooth. Whew, that's warm. As you can see how much I took off of that. It had to go somewhere. There. Good enough for me right here, right now, because we're just going to make more. Yeah. It's like anti-seize. It's mechanical herpes. And there. Now we got us a nice, slightly rough, yet even surface for our grip to glue onto. Next guy that takes these things off is probably going to cuss me like a dog. Now watch. The next guy that takes these things off, oh my luck, yeah, it'll be me. So how long are we? Oh, hey dummy, it helps if you look at the right side of the scale. Give me a break, I'm looking at my calipers upside down, y'all. We are about 15 thou shy. Man, I got a case of the dropsies tonight. Hey Fergus, how you doing, buddy? My shop cat, Fergus. We brought Fergus home when he was 8 weeks old. Little hairball just wandered up into the shop. And anyway, we kept him here at the house for a while. He decided he didn't want to be an indoor cat. He started going outside, and pretty soon he just stopped wanting to come in the house. Some of them are like that. He hangs out out in the neighborhood. I keep food out here for him. He's a little skitty, but, So what we got here, this part here has got a nice fine pattern knurl rolled into it that makes it back up to 1 inch. Now we got this big chunkster here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our other stock and we're going to do our 1 inch cut on it, and then we're going to make sure we get a nice clean finish cut on that because that's the side that the throttle tube's got to spin around. So we want to make sure we got good surface finish there. After we do that, we put the 3-jaw chuck back on there. That way we can throw this in nice, quick, and simple. And to keep from damaging the knurl finish that we so painstakingly rolled on here to grab our grips, sacrificial Pepsi can. Take the aluminum from a pop can, cut it down to where it'll just wrap around something. And what that does is that acts as a shim in between your chuck jaws and your piece that you're working on. That way the jaws don't dig in and mar this up. Now, honestly, I'm not terribly worried if I mar that up a little bit because it's just going to roughen it up and give it a place for the glue to grab a hold of that much better. But it's the thought that counts, All right, round 2. And honestly, that's so damn close, I ain't even going to bother putting the dial indicator on there. The good old calibrated ichrometer says we're good to go because y'all seen from the first piece, we got a lot we got to carve off of this thing. So let's get her in, get her squared up. get it tightened down, and let's get after it. Because honestly, with the racket this lathe makes whenever it's chattering, I'm sure my neighbors would appreciate it if I wrapped this up rather quickly. Oogie. Safety specs engaged. Okay, more caliper abuse. If you're delicate, look away now. It's not exactly what you call a wholesome sound. By the way, nerd tip here. You guys may wonder why I've got that compound set at a little bit of an angle instead of having it, squared up at a 90 degree. There's a reason for that. Our divisions on our dial on our cross slide here are marked out in thousandths of an inch. Okay, cool. Same thing here with our compound slide. They're marked out in thousandths of an inch. Now this is where the nerd / math factor comes in. Because of trig, which I don't understand, but that's what it's based off of, if you set the angle of that compound to 14.5 degrees, for every 1,000th tick mark that you turn on your indicator dial here on the compound, as it moves in, not only does it move in, it moves closer to your workpiece. So what it does is because of the way the math works out, setting this at 14.5 degrees, for every thousandths of indication you have here on your dial, you're actually only moving your tool in 5/10 thousandths. So it cuts it in half. You can get a lot, you can nail down a lot tighter dimension, and you can get a lot better surface finish like that. Especially if you're doing something real delicate or something where you've got to just be bang on the money, it lets you sneak up on it without accidentally overshooting it, kind of like I did when I cut the first one. Now, 6 thousandths may not amount to a hill of beans on a lot of stuff. On other things, that can be like big, huge, bigly. Okay, guys, welcome back. Different night, same flip-flops, same humidity. It's hot out here. Anyway, this is the finished product on the handlebar extensions that I was showing you, where I was, making a bunch of chips and curls and, making a lot of racket and a lot of cussing. So anyway, there you go. There you have it. Now, this is going to be the throttle side. We've got a 2-inch section right here, and this is cut down to 0.823. That's going to give us right at a 1/1000 of an interference fit where this presses into the end of the handlebar tube. Add a little bit of green Loctite to that, stick this in the freezer for a couple of hours, apply Loctite, have the handlebar, heated with a heat gun, whoop the crap out of it with a dead blow hammer, it'll go in there. Now the thing is, with this being the throttle side, on this side of it, where the sleeve for the throttle grip's going to ride, what I did on that is, just for a little bit of cheap insurance, I usually turn these down about 15 thousandths of an inch smaller than the actual diameter of the handlebar, just to make sure that we don't have anything that's going to, get into the grip if there's a little bit of irregularity into the grip or the plastic throttle sleeve itself. And also that way we can put a little bit of light grease on there just to make sure everything stays moving nice and free. Now, on the clutch side, that ain't going anywhere, because if you can see right there, I knurled the crap out of that thing. Now, the reason I did that was twofold. Number one, it gives me more surface area and more grip for the grip glue to grab a hold of to hold the grip in place, obviously. Number two, because I'm still learning the ins and outs of my new lathe, I accidentally blew my measurement and overshot it by like 8 thousandths of an inch. Now, with a rubber grip on there, it's not going to matter, okay? 8 thousandths, that ain't nothing. You're going to stretch that grip way more getting that thing over the end of the handlebar. But it's the principle of the matter. Also, it gave me an excuse to spend a little bit of time on the lathe and kind of get used to what it does and how it behaves and, kind of start feeling it out and learning the ins and outs of it. There's some updates and some mods that's going to happen on that thing over time, and I'll bring you all up to speed as we go along with that. But I want to show you this a little bit. Again, that side where the step cut is, that is cut to 0.823 inch. It's 823 thousandths of an inch, so we're actually undersized a little bit. But that is cut to where, again, it's a 1/1000th of an inch interference fit to the inside of the handlebar tube. That way it's a press fit when it goes in. Now, obviously, we're going to chill this guy down in the freezer for a couple hours. We're going to heat the handlebar, like I said, with the same thing with the throttle side. We're going to put Loctite on there, and then we're going to beat the crap out of it with a dead blow hammer to where we can get it installed. That way it doesn't go anywhere. If you look real close here, focus, there you go, and ignore my Sharpie dot here. I dropped my Sharpie. But if you look real close, see, we've got a nice little chamfer here to where it blends that transition from the handlebar tube itself to the extension. And over here on this end of it, right here, we've got a nice little chamfer there to make it easier for the grip to slide on there when the moment of truth comes in, and we cram it all together with a little bit of adhesive in there. Another YouTuber that I like to follow for her machining content on her channel, if you don't know who she is, go check her out. It's Blondie Hacks. I mean, she's awesome. You know, overlook the fact that she talks funny because she's Canadian and, you know, her head doesn't flop. But anyway, it's like she said, the only thing that separates man from the animals is chamfers. So there you go. Okay, moving along to our get our ass back to the house emergency toolkit segment here. I'm going to show you the stuff that I keep on my roadie, you know, on the daily in one of my saddlebags, and I carry this stuff with me wherever I go. So let me break this out, and I'll kind of break it down and explain why I've got with me what I've got with me. Okay, this right here, all this stuff's, whoop, gravity works. All this stuff stays in my saddlebag. It lives there 24/7. Occasionally I dip into it because either necessity or I stop to help somebody out, or, you know, just like if I'm over at Mom's place and I got a doorknob that worked loose or something like that, a little bit of everything. Let's get down to the meat and taters of it. So the main thing, my tool roll that I keep here. This thing's probably about, 8, 9 pounds, something like that. It's not terribly big. I don't have a banana for scale. What can I use? Aha, be right back. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't have the prerequisite banana for scale. So just to give you an idea of, you know, how big this tool roll is, you know, like I said, with the way I've got it loaded down, it weighs about 8, maybe 9 pounds, something like that. Since we don't have a banana, here. Wait a minute. Not all of you guys are Friday the 13th fans or potential slashers. What else can we use? Old raggedy work boot. Oh, no, wait a minute. Get that out of here. Here. Pretty sure we can all get behind this. Standard 12-ounce cold adult beverage, and it's in this nifty little koozie that my wife makes for me because she loves me so much and I love her to pieces. So, Gunny Z, this is for you, brother. Anyway, getting back to it and actually being serious for once. Kind of. Thing I like about this is it's your basic Becky, you know, tool roll. It's got a couple of adjustable straps where you can cinch it up, but you got everything you need right in front of you. I usually take a couple of shop rags and I lay down in here just to where I can have them on hand. What I keep with me, virtually all of this stuff can be had from Harbor Freight. And here, let me get you guys a little bit closer to where you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. That's a little better. Now, like I was saying, you can get most of this stuff from Harbor Freight. Some of this stuff came from Walmart. Now, I will be totally straight with you. A couple of these things came from Amazon, and I had a specific reason for that, and I'll explain why. By the way, I'll put links in the comment, or I'll put links in the description section down below if this is something you guys are interested in or something you might want to consider putting together for your own ride. So starting out here, basic screwdriver, only it's not quite so basic. This is a convertible screwdriver that has double-ended bits. Like on this, it's got a number 2 Phillips, and then it's got a kind of a medium-ish size flat blade on the other end. But they snap into this handle. Handle also acts as a 1/4-inch bit driver for just in case you need something special for your bike. Like, say, you want to carry one of these little security bit sets that's got different assorted Allens, Torx, Phillips, yada, yada. These come from Harbor Freight as well, and I use the crap out of these things. This kit, can't read the logo because it's wore off, but this is a Hyper Tough screwdriver kit from Walmart. Comes with a screwdriver and a handle and also these bits. In addition to the bits and the handle that it comes with, it's got Allens and also it's got Torx. The Allens on these are in imperial size. You know, they're fractional, say 3/16, 1/4 inch, blah, 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 blah. If you're on a Harley, hey, great, cool. If you're like me and you're on a metric bike, not so much. But honestly, I use these more for guys that I come across on the road that have a breakdown on a Harley more than I do my own bike anyway. So there's that. If I need them, I got them. And it's nice having a little bit of versatility available to me. So that covers us on screwdrivers. Then, again, Harbor Freight, basic slip joint pliers, basic needle nose pliers. I think these are $4 a piece if you buy them out of the bin there at Harbor Freight. And as a plus, they got a lifetime warranty on them. Now, one thing that I did buy from Harbor Freight exclusive on this, they've got this set of Pittsburgh metric wrenches, and they also have these in imperial sizes, fractionals, SAE, whatever you want to call them. This is a full-size set that's got everything from M7 all the way up to M19, or 7mm to 19mm. Now, it does skip the odd size ones, like 15, 18, things like that. Now, if you've got an odd duck bike that you know has fasteners like that on there, might be a good idea just to cherry pick your local pawn shop and see if you can find a few strays in their bargain bin just to fill in the blanks. I'm not going to pull all of these out here because eventually I got to put all this stuff back in here. And also, this cheap 3-piece crescent wrench set, adjustable wrench set, not made by the Crescent Tool Company. Again, Harbor Freight. And these cover me on anything from, just do a quickie tighten up on a foot peg bolt all the way up to pulling the axles off if I have a flat tire on the side of the road and I can't plug it on the bike. I need to pull the tire off the bike. So I've got stuff that's big enough to where I can do that. And also, just to give you a little bit of extra leverage whenever you need it, if you need it, this is a cheap set. So if you beat them up, getting yourself out of a jam, hey, no big deal. But $10 for 3 of them. It'll cover you on pretty much anything that you're going to come across. This set of wrenches, right now, I think they're $15 for the set. Again, it's Pittsburgh. It's lifetime warranty. Also, I carry one of these hemostats that locks, $3-4 a piece from Harbor Freight. And the reason I do this is because if I need like something to get into a tight spot where regular pliers won't reach, especially, if something falls down into a nook and cranny or something, or if I'm having to worm a throttle cable, in and around something, if, I have a cable break on me while I'm on the road, I got something here where I can fix it. But also, if you got to pull a fuel line or a coolant line off, watch this. Ow, ow, that hurts. Don't do that, dummy. Here, visual aid time. They lock. So you can lock them in place, and you can use that to pinch off a fuel hose or an oil line or a vacuum line or whatever you need to pinch off. Now, this is where things get a little deep. And these are something that's specialized that I carry on my bike for specific reasons, because I've ran into situations in the past where I thought, I was on the side of the road, or I was trying to help somebody on the side of the road, and I thought, damn, if I only had that with me, I'd be in good shape. So that's why I keep this stuff with me nowadays. This is a little bit more than just your basic test light. This is actually a logic probe. It's got about 4 foot worth of wire on it. Nothing real big or anything. It's got a piercing tip to it. See? It's sharp and pokey. Ow. And it comes with its own little safety condom. And that's a good thing because I've actually stabbed myself with this thing before. But the cool thing about this is, like I said, this isn't just a normal test light. It's a logic probe. Let me grab a battery and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Going back to our old tried and true Shirai lithium battery here. Stay put. Stand up like a man. Now, if you watch, not only does it show that you've got continuity, down here, it has a voltmeter built into it. And then further down here, it's got a red and a green LED. This is the logic probe part of this. This tells you whether you're on a powered circuit or on a ground circuit. Let me reverse this and I'll show you what I'm talking about. See? We got a red light that lights up for ground. I know it's kind of hard to pick up on the video, but trust me, it's burning. Like I said, I wanted it for a test light and for a logic probe. That way, a test light, you can see if you've got voltage or you can see if you got ground. Where the logic probe part of it comes in handy, when you have this hooked to battery power, when you have this hooked to voltage, you've got your little indicator light here that shows you that you're on a ground right now and that it's got continuity to ground. It's still showing voltage, but where this comes in handy, if you're out in the boonies somewhere and you're trying to figure out why your fuel injected bike doesn't start, you can back probe a fuel injector with this thing, and while you're cranking the bike over, that light will flicker with the ground pulse from the ECM commanding the injector to open. So if you don't see the light flickering, then you know you've got a problem with the ECM not commanding the injectors to open. That also works for checking ignition coils as well, to see if you're getting a command signal from your ignition to the coil to actually fire the coil. Because how the ignition coils fire is they have a pulse ground sent to them, most generally. There are some exceptions to that. Anyway, cool little piece of kit. That thing's actually saved my butt a few times. And then moving along with the whole electricity is not your friend, but you're going to deal with it however you have to vibe. I'm not a Milwaukee fanboy. I just happened to pick these up in a Home Depot one day because they were there and I was like, hey, I need those. And they were on sale. Basic wire strippers and cutters. The thing is, they do all of your basic wire gauges from 12 gauge all the way down to 24. So pretty much anything you're going to run into on a motorcycle, except for maybe a battery cable itself, you're covered. And again, another Harbor Freight buy. These little double-ended picks, I use these a lot. You guys will see me with these on the channel doing carburetor work and things like that. You got a straight one on this end. It's got a 90-degree bend on this end that's not exactly 90 degrees anymore because I kind of reefed on it a little bit. So it's a little tweaked, but, you know, hey, it still gets the job done. And then you got your old-fashioned shepherd's hook on this end, and it's got a bendy, whatever you want to call it, you know. Yeah, these come in handy like if you're trying to fish a throttle cable into a tight spot, or if you drop something, or if you're trying to get an O-ring dug out of a groove, or whatever, you know, whatever kind of picky situation may arise, you're covered. These are, I think they're $3 for the pair of them. Now this is where my inner electrical nerd comes in. And I hate that guy because honestly, I'm not a fan of having to do electric work. I do it all the time. I don't dig it, but I do it. So yeah, there I said what I said. The voltmeter that was built into the test light, yeah, that's handy to have for quick and dirty stuff. But just in case I need to dig a little deeper and I'm out in the boonies somewhere, I got this little guy. This is a full-featured, compact size digital voltmeter, and this will do AC voltage, it will do DC voltage, it will also do continuity, and it will read resistance. You can see this thing has all of your common functions. It's got continuity test with an audible alarm. Now granted, the leads on this thing are fairly short, but for no bigger than what it is, it's more than plenty enough to get you out of a jam. The only thing is, you got to remember to turn it off because these don't have auto power off to them. But it folds up into its own case that's literally smaller than your average cell phone is these days. Now this little pouch here, I keep just a little El Cheapo disposable Allen wrench set because if I strip one, if I lose one, something like that, it's not going to break my heart and I didn't spend a whole lot of money on it. I believe I spent like maybe $5 on this thing at, I don't know, I think it was like an AutoZone or an O'Reilly, something like that. I've got a couple of small machine screws that I keep in the pouch here, along with a fuse puller, you know, in case I don't have my pliers handy, along with a couple of spare fuses in here. Now, I keep another smaller compartment box that's about the size of this O-ring kit right here. I keep that in the bike as well, and I've got fuses, and I've also got small hardware like M4, M5 screws, you know, stuff that you typically see on a carburetor, things like that. And also some bigger stuff like M6 and M8. I keep a couple of different lengths of that. And I keep some locking nuts for all that stuff in there as well. just in case I'm out on the road and I accidentally may lose something, or if somebody's in a jam and I can help them out, you know, hey, I'm covered and I got options. Another thing that I carry with me, and this is partly for doing electrical stuff, but also if I break a cable while I'm out on the road, I can fix it. It's basically like a butane cigarette lighter like you'd buy at your average gas station, but the cool thing is the output on this thing is adjustable, and plus these are refillable. You can just fill them up with a standard butane cartridge. What I like about this is it's got this little window on the side here, and I don't know if you can see that bubble floating around in there, but you can actually see how much juice you got in the tank, so to speak. That, and I keep a length of electrical solder, you know, the fine wire stuff. I keep that, you know, along in my pouch and everything, just in case I need it, you know, for electrical work, or if I've got to fix a cable, you know, if somebody breaks a cable. Speaking of cables, this kit used to be made by Pit Posse, and I don't know if they make it anymore, but if you can find them all over Amazon, and they're just kind of a generic no-name thing these days. Believe it or not, all that used to be brass and chrome-plated hardware inside there. These are various universal cable ends, and also it's got a couple of different lengths of prefab cable. Some of them have ends already swaged onto them, like for the clutch cable, but this will cover you for pretty much any kind of throttled or clutch cable failure that you may experience when you're out on the road. Now, is it exactly like OEM? No, it's not, but it's enough to where with some just bare bones basic hand tools and one of these, you can patch yourself up, get yourself off the side of the road, get back to the house, and avoid the dreaded ride on the tow truck. Or worse, that call to a significant other at 3 o'clock in the morning saying, baby, I need you to come pick me up. That's a hard call to make, guys. I've had to do that before. But it just goes together, and it lives in a little metal can. It's about the size of a can of shoe polish. And usually what I do on this is that fiber reinforced electrical tape that I like using. I'll put about 8 or 10 wraps around this just to keep the lid on there and keep it from bouncing around. But also, that way if I need electrical tape, I got it with me. I just peel some off and cut it off as I need to. This has been bouncing around in my saddlebag for the last couple of years, and you could tell by how discolored all that stuff was on the inside. The electrical tape on there was pretty beat up, so I got to rewrap it. And then the last big thing I keep with me. This is just a cheapo nylon bag that came with like, you know, one of those little $10 travel shaving kits like you buy at Walmart or Walgreens at 2 o'clock in the morning when you realize, you know, you got where you were going and you forgot all your crap at home. But I didn't care about that. I just harvested the bag because it works out real good for keeping my tire stuff. I keep a plug kit on me, and these have got the little gooey, sticky rope plugs that's got the pre-applied adhesive on there. And that's a good thing, too, because I've gone through this a couple times now, and if you look inside the package, you can see that my little tube of glue is blown up and it started leaking in there. It happens from sitting out in the heat and all that. You got the reamer tool, you've got the threading needle to where you can get the plugs jammed into the tire. These are $6, $7 at Harbor Freight. I mean, well worth it. It may be getting about time to retire these, but little cheapy package of AAA batteries from Harbor Freight. And the reason I keep these is you guys have probably seen the little pocket flashlight that I use, you know, in my videos, at work, things like that. Now, it's rechargeable. I can plug it into a USB port and recharge it, you know, in about an hour, and boom, I'm good to go. I use that thing daily. If I'm out and about somewhere, if my flashlight dies, I can pull the battery out of that, drop 2 of these in there, and I'm back up and running. Now, a plug kit ain't going to do you much good unless you got some way of putting air back in the tire. And that's where this little Frankenstein creation comes into play. These are just a pair of alligator clips that are fused with a trickle charger lead. You know, it's a standard 2-pin snap cord. I keep these in here if I'm out and about somewhere and I don't have my bike with me, or I can't get my bike to where I'm trying to help somebody out. If they don't have that pigtail on there, I got no way to power up my air pump. Obviously, I know I've got a trickle charge lead on my bike, so I can just plug it straight in. That's for just in case I don't have access to it. And this is why. This thing's kind of scary. It's kind of naked looking. And it's kind of cheap. It's got about 1.5 feet of hose on it with a little cheapy lock-on thing. If this thing still had all of its covering on it, y'all would recognize what it is. This is a little cheapy $10 inflator pump that Harbor Freight sells. They're usually bright screaming yellow, but they're big and they take up a lot of space. So I just gutted the sucker. I got the pump and the motor out of it, soldered some wires onto it, and then I put a couple of zip ties to hold the wires in place. And then, whenever I got to pump up a tire, if it's on my bike, I'll just take the hose and let it hang from the hose like that, you know, wherever it's convenient, where it doesn't get into anything, because you got to know that that gear and that little crankshaft for the piston that pumps air, that thing is doing some work when you plug this sucker in. So, yeah, you got to be careful using it, but if you're 20 miles away from the nearest gas station that's got an air pump, I don't care how ugly it is. I don't care how sketchy it looks. If it'll blow up a tire, get me off the side of the road, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And I have used this thing a lot. Also, here's the little cheesy adapter needles that they give you with the air pump for blowing up a soccer ball or an air mattress or something like that. Don't ask me why I kept them. I just, you know, I figured, hey, it might be a good idea someday. Well, that pretty much wraps up my get my ass back to the house roadside emergency kit. And like I said, there's a couple things I keep out on the bike that I didn't show you guys. A lot of that's going to be proprietary based on your bike in particular. That's why it pays to spend an afternoon, kind of take a step back, walk around, look at stuff. What stuff that you're commonly adjusting or having to fiddle with, you know, like say your throttle cables, or you've got this one side cover that loosens up all the time, or you've got to take that widget off to where you can get down to your battery in case you need to pull your battery out or something like that. You know, take a look around, take a notebook with you or something, jot that stuff down, and then just spend a day, you know, wandering around and kind of brainstorming on it, because I've got pretty much everything that I need, up to and including if I had to pull the motor out of my bike on the side of the road, I've got it here in my kit. Now, granted, a lot of my stuff, it may be overboard for the average guy, but there's a lot of times where, like, if I'm out on a ride or if I come across somebody on the highway that's broke down or something like that, if I can help them, bet your ass I'm going to stop and help them. I mean, that's the only right thing to do, man. You know, a lot of times I may run into something where, you know, it's a little bit beyond the average, hey, my battery went dead, or, you know, hey, I blew a fuse kind of thing, and I like to be prepared for it. Just to kind of sum things up, let's see here. Oh, yeah, it's Florida. It's hot. It's muggy as hell right now because we just had a hell of a hurricane roll through here a week ago. And there's a lot of people that are still picking up the pieces from that and trying to get their life back on track. The people further up north in the Carolinas and in eastern Tennessee, my heart goes out to you guys. Really, it does, because y'all have had a bad hand dealt to you. And I hope that your lives start regaining some semblance of normality here very, very soon. So anyway, I think we're going to pull the plug on this one tonight because, yeah, you know, we pretty much hit everything we were talking about. Now, SquidBoi's bike, whenever we go to putting these handlebar extensions on there and we get the bars put up on the bike and all that stuff, I'll make sure I show you guys the process of how I'm going to get those extension slugs into the end of the handlebars. It's going to involve a big hammer. Also, just to put it out there, we are basically T-minus 3 weeks, give or take, from the Weirdos camp out at Forgotten Angels here in Valrico. Look forward to seeing each and every single one of you guys there. I'm looking forward to this because it's been a hell of a year, and especially here the past couple of weeks, man. I mean, that's just ramped up the stupid level to, you know, like 11. So let's kick back, pop a top, have a good time, try to raise a little bit of money for, you know, the program out at Forgotten Angels, you know, for what really matters and, you know, what they're all about, because they're 100% a donation-driven nonprofit charity. Every single dime that is donated to them, it doesn't get divvied up to, you know, some marketing director or some program director, blah, 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 blah. It's David. It's Cindy. It's these young men and women that they have out there, and that money goes from them out to them. That's it. Nothing in between. Every single thing that comes into Forgotten Angels, it goes into Forgotten Angels. Nobody's taking a cut out of that. They are heavily dependent on, you know, donations and, you know, the good-hearted nature of other people to help keep the ball rolling, because unfortunately, at the end of the day, almighty dollar is what kind of makes the world go around in a lot of areas, and it takes a lot of those almighty dollars to get a lot of this stuff done. Yep, that's still cold. Those koozies work awesome. Anyway, don't forget, guys, like I said, I'm going to put links to all these products that I was showing you here down in the description on the video. So if you guys want to take a peek at them, see if it's something that you want to add to your roadside kit, take a peek at them. If it's something that you think you need to add to your roadside kit, I'll have you a link here that'll take you where you need to go to where you can get a hold of this stuff, okay? Okay, that being said, work is progressing on SquidBoi's Honda. It's just I'm waiting on a couple of more parts to where we can actually get anything meaningful done on the thing to where we can show you guys some forward momentum on it. That, and also, I've been hammering down on the bug out bike, the Ironhead Sportster, you know, the old Tetanus Express, Daddy Dirt. We got to think of something else before we give this thing away. Oh, yeah, that reminds me. Newsflash, in case you've been living under a rock or you just hadn't heard it yet, this bike is going to be given away at random to one of the members of my Patreon. You don't have to spend one single plug nickel to sign up to win this thing. It's going to be drawn randomly out of the membership on my Patreon, okay? I have a link for that in the description on this video. Go over there, check it out. We got a lot of cool cats over there, and, you know, we have some odd discussions at times, but you know, it's it's shaping up to be a pretty cool place to be. And I got to say, for you guys that are already over there and you guys that are a member here on the channel, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You know, whenever I dove into the deep end of the YouTube pool a couple of months back and I started this channel, I really didn't think it was going to take off to the extent that it has. And if I could just ask one small favor for you guys, here lately, it seems like our viewership has been a little bit limited. So please, if you like the video, smash it, lick it, bop it, twist it, crank it, smack it, slam it, whatever the like button. And also, if you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. Above all, share this stuff. If you got somebody that you ride with and they're trying to work out a little, you know, pain in the ass problem or something that's kind of a reoccurring thing with their bike, or if they're considering upgrading it, or like a lot of people these days, they're squeezing two nickels together and trying to get a quarter out of it. You know, if they can't afford their local independent shop or their dealership and they're looking to do some maintenance or repair work on their own, share this video with them. Share this channel with them. I try to help everybody out as much as I possibly can. And the thing is, at the end of the day, knowledge unshared, that's knowledge lost. It's not doing me any good to camp out on it. Hey, I'll try to help out anybody however I can, okay? Because that's just the right way to be. So anyway, y'all, till next trip, I look forward to seeing you guys in the comments on the premiere on this. It's late. My neighbors probably hate me right now for all the racket that I've been making out here the last couple of nights. And honestly, it's hot. I'm tired. It's been a hell of a damn week. I'm going to go in, kick my flip-flops off. I'm going to take a shower, get my comfy clothes, and I'm going to see what I can do about replenishing the substance that may or may not be in this cozy right now. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for letting us share your brain space just a little bit. If you learned a little bit from this, or if it gave you some ideas, cool. That's the object here, is to get people to think. By all means, if you've got a suggestion or something that you would recommend, throw them down there in the comments. I read all that stuff. I try to answer everybody as soon as possible. Here lately, this past week, I've been a little busy, guys, and honestly, I've been slacking on that a little bit, and that's nobody's fault but mine. Until they figure out this cloning thing, there's just one of me. Thank God. Anyway, till next time, I love y'all. I'll catch you on the flip side, okay?
Force will be with you, always.